And we are recording. Hello, guys. What a beautiful day today for a number of reasons. And the main reason for today is that we have something super, super exciting for you here. As you know, we are recording a set of videos where we try to share tips, and we're actually sharing very important tips with you guys of how to improve your lives in certain areas. And today we're speaking about masculinity with our amazing guest, Nathan Meola. Please help me welcome to the stage the amazing and great Nathan. Nathan, welcome.
Oh, wow. I feel like, thank you, Oksana. Thank you. Wow, I feel like I've just been introduced onto a stage of 1,000 people. It's awesome.
It's like in New York, because you're preparing, right?
Yeah, I'm preparing right now.
Right. Nathan, we are delighted to have you here. We know that you're a superstar. We are happy that you found time to share your thoughts and insights with us. And would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your mission?
Of course. Well, I'm Nathan. I'm from Sydney. And basically, I help men to, go from being good men, because that's what we're talking about here, good men to basically answer their call to greatness. And I do that by teaching them how to master their emotions.
Wow. From good to great. So it's like
from good to great.
There is nothing below good. It's good to great. That's an interesting concept. Awesome.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Tell.
Well, I think all men are good. I think particularly the men that I surround myself with and who are in my circle, they're good men. Good men who want the best for the people that they love, who want the best for themselves, who really are working towards growth and to be the best version of themselves. But sometimes being a good man doesn't give you a roadmap into how to actually attain those things. And I guess we find and we see too many good men taking their own lives, and too many good men being taken advantage of, and also too many good men going down the pathway that leads to not so good behaviors and actions. Yeah. So that's the thing that we want to look at. Yeah,
I totally get you, Nathan, and it's a very, very noble mission that you're on. And as we're speaking about masculinity today, and I have this pleasure and honor to talk to a man who's a very masculine man, as for me, you, would you please tell us, what does masculinity mean to you specifically? What is that? How do you perceive it?
It's an important question because masculinity is up for debate right now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And everyone seems to have an opinion about what it means. And we've also got people talking about toxic masculinity and all of this stuff right now at the moment. So I think it's important to define what masculinity is, and what I think masculinity is the core kind of energy that the majority of men have at their core. And what I think that is it comes with a whole bunch of traits that have been totally misconstrued. So for me, masculinity means to have a drive and a purpose and a mission, to be, to embrace the provider and the protector, and to really accept responsibility. Those are all the things that for me, I feel encompass the masculine energy.
The masculine energy for you, right? And Nathan, if I understand correctly, does it mean that when a man is born, he already possesses all of those traits of masculinity, and then at some point of life he sort of forgets. So is your role as a coach in the industry, is your role to actually teach men to be masculine? Do I get it correctly? Or it's not actually teaching, is something else there?
It's interesting way that you pose the question, because the question is whether we're talking about masculinity or men. And I think they're different things. Because I think if you were to ask me, what does it mean to be a man, then my response would probably be very different. Because being a man is not so easy to know how to be a man. So our ideas about what it is to be a man tend to come from external sources, come from other people or culture or family or media. The ideas of what it means to be a man often get confused with masculinity. So we have examples of immature or underdeveloped masculinity or unhealthy masculinity that's showing up in adult men, which are essentially children walking around in men's bodies. So it's one thing to work on your muscles and get tattoos and grow a beard and make millions of dollars, but those can all be masks that we hide behind to protect the very insecure, very afraid, very weak inner child that has never been nurtured and has never been initiated into manhood.
Brilliant. Into manhood. I like that word. Thank you. That's a very descriptive, big answer, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening can relate and sort of get the aha moments and get some sort of understanding. Nathan, in your life, did you have like a strong reason why you needed to nurture that manhood within, that masculinity within? Was it like a turning point for you? What happened?
Yeah, I think definitely it came to the point where I realized that I had to do some of this work. I'm in a relationship now with my beautiful fiancée Marette, and I was in this transition stage where I was ready to move out of home and start my own life, and I had also just been on a physical transformation. So I'd lost 130 kilos at this point. I was a personal trainer. And like I said, I had built the big muscles. I was running a business. Testosterone was pumping. And I was using a lot of that as a distraction. Meanwhile, I hadn't actually healed any of the internal wounds of the child, of the boy. And it all started to really come up for me. First, when I started to question my values, when I started to understand and question, what are my values? And it really began, the catalyst for this was when I cheated on Marette. So this was kind of like the moment where I was hit with all of these questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? What is this image that I've created to show the world? And I had to really kind of have a look at why I had been living that way. And it was a very, very difficult thing to do, because I was essentially facing a lifetime of pretending and lying and really putting forward an image of what I thought I needed to be rather than actually being. So in order to save this relationship, the relationship that I really wanted to save, that was basically do or die. And that was where I started down the path of understanding masculinity and I think one of the first books I read was called Manhood by Stephen Biddulph, and then Iron John, which is an absolute classic that talks about mythology and archetypes, masculine archetypes, and then of course king, warrior, lover, magician. And it all led me down the path, really, of healing my father wound. So my relationship with my father, it all really came down to that, and that was one of the most difficult journeys that I've ever taken. And I know that it was worth it because of the conversation that I had with my father today, which was where I was able to help him in a moment of transition in his life as he transitions in his career and in his life, really, in letting go of he's an Italian concreter and he's been doing it all his life, but his body's broken down and he's wondering what's next. And I was able to sit with him and have that conversation. And I reflect back on that now and just see how far I've come and how important it is for every man to fulfill their obligation of healing the wound that they have with their father.
That is so deep. And I think the word that is wanting to jump out of my mouth is that vulnerability that you were able to create, like the conscious vulnerability, right? Because all the pain that was sitting inside, you actually were already aware of the pain and you became vulnerable. Would that be correct to say?
Pain is a funny thing because I've experienced and been in pain for a lot of my life. And I created lots of strategies that were designed to avoid feeling pain, to run away from pain or to protect myself from pain.
Yeah.
And the more I did that, the further down the hole I got, the darker it got. And for men, I think that one of the main issues that we're talking about is this need or perceived need to avoid pain, whether to push it down inside or to distract with sex or porn or gambling or drugs or food or relationships or anger or whatever it might be. So really it's facing the pain and making the decision to open up, to invite the pain in, and really allow it to reach its full peak inside you and to sit with it.
Wow.
And that's a very confronting thing to have to do. And that's what I did when I admitted to Mirette that I cheated on her a year and a half later. You know, I knew what I was in for, kind of thing.
So
and I also
it took a lot of courage, and like gambling, right? You knew you could have lost everything, and you still went.
Yeah, I people, Mirette would ask me, why did it take so long to tell me? And the truth is, I told her as soon as I possibly could. As soon as I was ready, and that was a year and a half, and it took a lot of work to get to that point. And I didn't have to; no one would ever have known. But it was really at that point more not even to save the relationship, but to finally face my biggest fear, which was to let someone in to see all the dirty, dark secrets that I had. And this was the person that I cared about most. So this is why it was most confronting. You know, the kind of the easy way out was just to not say anything and allow the relationship to disintegrate, which it would have, and then try and get on with my life with that secret forever inside me. So it was really the moment where I said enough's enough This is my first stand against the lies and against the mask and against the armor that I had built in cracking that open. So it was about so much more than just admitting that I had cheated, because I also knew that it was like a grenade that I was about to detonate in the relationship, that it would force us both to confront things that we'd been avoiding for a very long time. And the only way I knew to do it was because in the work that I had done, I got to the point where I knew that our relationship would survive. And I had a vision for our relationship. And I knew that she was strong enough to handle it, and that I was strong enough to deal with whatever the consequence was.
Right. That is
right. But yeah, I didn't tell her worried about her deciding to leave me. Yeah. So it was well beyond that. I told her knowing that if we were to ever have the type of relationship that I want in my life, that we would have to move through this. So there was only one way through. And I just kind of had to like strap myself in and ride the waves, the fallout really from the explosion. And it was the most painful, excruciating time of my life, without a doubt.
It's extremely powerful, and you've been so vulnerable and open, and I'm sure your story is touching so many hearts. That's massive. Nathan, if we continue the talk about the masculinity, because the experience that you've just described, it was the man stepping into his masculine, taking responsibility, being the real masculine man. Do you have any tips how to sort of keep up with that masculinity, how to always be aware of masculinity? Like, I don't know if there are any tips that you could share with us if there are.
To enable yourself to continue to be in touch with your own masculine energy?
Yeah, or like, how to be more masculine, how to tap into that, masculinity.
Well, the first thing I would say was to try to avoid trying to be more masculine.
Okay, it's like be natural.
Yeah, the idea of that men have to try and be more masculine, right, and that there are things that they can do to become more masculine, plays into the idea that we're not enough as we are. So the truth is, every man and every woman, just the way they are, when it's all stripped back, is exactly where they need to be and who they need to be. And there is no set, it doesn't look like anything. Right. Masculinity doesn't look like anything. It just is. So everything that you've built on top of who you really are is going to be restricting the light that shines through from the inside. And that light, whether you want to call that masculinity, right, or essence or spirit, it's all one and the same. When you strip back the layers, so when you take responsibility, take responsibility for all of your actions and all of your decisions and all of your beliefs and your identity and everything that you've created in your life, and the situations that you find yourself in now or have created for yourself, including all the pain, all the breakups, everything, to accept that responsibility and say, I created this, I am in control of this and always have been. That's kind of step number one to releasing some of the, to reclaiming some of your power.
Reclaiming power, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And then I would say doing the work on yourself to
Mm-hmm.
We all have to do the work for ourselves, wherever that lies.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, it may be work to develop, to understand masculinity, because perhaps we don't have a good understanding or grasp of what it actually means, and we may be trying to fulfill. This is why I said don't try and be more masculine,
Mm-hmm.
because you may just be trying to fulfill the idea of what you've been told or taught it is to be a masculine man.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you've learnt on TV or in the past, or passed down to you from past generations. So a lot of times you have to unlearn that. So I would say do your research and do your learning. And then the other part, I would say that I would say that you it is your obligation to heal your relationship with your father.
Great.
Yeah, so I hope that was three things.
I think they were like profound, deep three things. Yeah, take responsibility, work on yourself, heal.
I think it's taking responsibility leads into healing that relationship with your father, and I think that it is that it is necessary to do, whether your father's alive or dead.
Right.
Because it's a process that happens inside you, from you. And it doesn't necessarily involve your father, not at first. It doesn't have to be a conversation, but whatever you blame him for, whatever you feel he has done to you, it's time to step up and take responsibility.
And therefore let go all of that.
And let go, yeah.
This is absolutely deep. I'm just having movies in my head, like listening to you, and this is deep and profound. And again, you've mentioned like the journey of masculinity, if we could call it this way. It's something unique for every individual. There is no one single book or one single formula that could make you masculine. It's the inner work and the effort, your own desire. And this is deep and profound. Nathan, have you ever felt, ever since you stepped into the masculinity journey, have you ever felt like quitting, like this is too tough, I don't want to do this, this is too painful?
Yes, of course. The masculinity journey has gone side by side with a personal growth and a personal development journey, and there's been many difficult moments, even up until very recently. There's always lots of questions that come up. Am I doing the right thing? Why is it so difficult? But I find that the greatest suffering happens in the moments when I believe that I don't have to do any more work. So as soon as I take my foot off the accelerator or believe that I've done enough, I'm just going to take a break now, I'm just going to stop. Surely I've been through enough in my life that I don't have to keep going. Whether that means I take a break, or I stop with my training, physical training, or food, or learning, or personal development, or conversations. That is when suffering is at its greatest. That is when the addictive behaviors take hold. And in the lead up to Christmas, it was a period where I fell down that spiral, and that all came back. Living with my parents again, so confronting all of that, reliving all of that. Christmas time, I had my engagement party, and everything that came along with all of that. So these are the times where you think, God, it's just, is this all worth it? I just want to shut everything off. And that's when the suffering's at its greatest.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this is just never going to stop. So it doesn't matter if I want to stop or not. It's more painful. Sorry, not more painful. The suffering is greater when I try and stop. Pain will always be there. As the Buddhists say, life is pain, but suffering is optional. So there's always going to be pain. Whether you suffer or not is your choice.
That's a good saying, actually. Yeah, it does make sense completely. And I hope our listeners, whoever they are, men or women, doesn't matter, because everyone needs to hear this. It's just, so deep and profound, Nathan. Such great awareness. What inspires you in life? What gives you the spark?
Wow. For me, it really is. I do this to make a difference, to help people who are going through the same, and really to allow them to become role models and leaders for the people around them, but then also future generations. Like we have to do something. And this is like a calling to continue to do this work. And no matter how hard I try and avoid it, or have tried to avoid it, I've realized that I'm really just called to continue doing this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But at the same time, that's kind of what drives me.
It's a calling, right? Because it streams right from your heart, and you can't lie when you speak from the heart. And Nathan,
and that's really
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you said that, when the calling, and when it comes from your heart. I think that's also adds to what drives me, just as we talk, which is the truth.
Yeah.
The truth. I can't do anything but the truth. Not now.
You live in it.
Right. So wherever that leads me, that's where I'll go.
It's like a Facebook Live, only 24/7, right?
24/7. The camera's always on, right?
You can't redo it, right? Because it's like Facebook.
Can't redo. That's right.
Nice analogy. And what would be your main wish to the audience today?
I think everyone is being called to greatness. I think that everyone is being called. And if I'm talking to the men, I would say that there are stories throughout history and myths that tell the story of the king who didn't know he was a king.
Oh.
And really what that means to me is that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you're living or what your life is or the situation you're in, that there's no way for you to know whether or not you're a king or not.
Yeah.
So I say, step up into that space, because we've seen it over and over and over again, that it's always the most unlikely person that grows to be a king. So I would say you're all kings, and you're all being called to your greatness. The suffering comes when you refuse that call. So if there's something inside you that's nagging or pulling or telling you to do something or be something or have the conversation or open up or whatever it is, follow that and really step into your greatness.
Step into your greatness. What a profound...
Not just for you, for everyone.
For everyone, right? For both men and women, especially, you know, moms who are growing sons or wives who want sort of better their husbands or help them. You know, everyone. I think this is a topic that touches every single person. You know, I love it, and I'm very grateful for your time, Nathan, and for your insights and for your honesty and vulnerability and openness. I think it's important, and it's like the number one step in order to grow is to be able to be honest with yourself and then bring it all the way up. Thank you so much, and I'm sure the value of your conversation is going to be placed into the right hearts, and I'm grateful that I had this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Oksana. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Me too. And you have a great day, and we'll talk later.
I will. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.